Okay.
And guess who's playing?
I'm going to take a wild stab in the dark and say it's Hunterace and Seiko.
That's really close. It's Seiko and Hunterace.
Oh, come on.
Order matters.
I was robbed.
Order LUL.
Order LUL.
That's the matchup that we have coming up right now, so we can take a look at some of the deck lists and see how things are going in this one. Seiko has brought Rogue this week and has not brought Sea Giants. I think that Seiko's one of the players that has mixed around decks quite a bit, even if it's subtle differences that are making the change. And here, just a pretty straightforward, solid deck. The one difference is the double eviscerate that is here, rather than the single one that Clinto had.
I don't know what you're talking about, Admirable, because personally, I see giants. They just happen to be mountain giants in Seiko's tertiary deck.
Wow, that was a good landing on that one.
Thank you. Which, yeah, is another unique twist that we haven't really been seeing from other players in terms of their, their additional greedy version of the deck and how they choose to go with that. And you do see that he is removing double waggle pick from that version that we'll likely see later on in the series as well. Harrison Jones, Snip Snap, and those two mountain giants, yes, mountain giants coming into the deck.
Take on the anti-warrior. You fill up your hand with lots of lackeys and stuff, and you play a giant.
Yep.
Go. 8/8s are difficult to deal with for Hunterace's deck. Specifically, he's brought Bomb Warrior to the table. They'll copy a Spellbreaker in there. I've become a bit more fond of this card as I've played it more in Bomb Warrior. It just has a lot of strong utility effects that I have found make a big difference.
Gonna take another wild shot in the dark here. Do you most often use it to silence the taunt keyword from an opponent so you can smack them in the face with more damage?
Specifically Ziliax,
yeah.
But it also happens to be good in the matchup versus Edwin Van Cleef as an insurance plan. I would actually consider it keepable in the matchup.
Against Rogue?
Yes.
Okay.
One of the reasons is because Seiko's deck's a little bit slower than your Rogues used to be. So it's the insurance plan against Edwin, but it also helps against stuff like Snip Snap as well.
Yeah, for sure. Hunterace.
Important records for these two as well.
Very much so, yeah. The top two in the division, Seiko and Hunterace, as it stands. And honestly, it's the division where I feel like, if you'd asked me, like, hey, who's going to be the top two? This one I probably would have got right. Just as a guess on, who I consider to be the strongest players in the group.
You being from Europe, I really appreciate, and Derek as well, where both of you were able to provide very early insight into just how good Seiko was. I was having kind of just take words for it when I heard them, which were quite infrequent. But you and Derek talked him up quite a bit, and I was like, all right, I'm looking forward to see it. And then after like match 2, I was like, oh my gosh, he plays so good. And I mean, you're pretty spot on with that analysis on it as well. I would have nailed the Hunterace one. He was my first pick in the fantasy draft that we had done.
Well done, you.
Well, I got first pick.
Fair enough. Yeah, well, pick the world champion.
Yeah, really tough.
Yeah.
It's like that arena where you're offered like the Mech Warper and then just like 2 garbage cards, and you're like, what? The Mech Warper. Nice start here for Hunterace as well. Wrench Caliber, so important to Bomb Warrior. And it's more important when you're on coin. I have found some slight situations where I've considered mulligan it going first. Never when I'm going second.
What are you, when you say you want to throw it away going first sometimes, what are you looking for to replace it? Just more 1-drops?
A lot of times it's 1-drops, yeah.
Okay.
I think it's very matchup dependent. Picture the Bunny Hopper, Evil Miscreant, Fairy Dragon situation that we came across earlier.
Yeah, right.
Okay. Just sometimes you gotta have stuff. Just super plated beetle. It's almost certainly to be Omega Devastator here. Wow, it's really good here, actually. Wait, is this the Omega Devastatist I was talking about earlier? It's really good.
It's, yeah, Chillwind Meki can get the job done sometimes. In the face of no Vendetta, it does work.
What if your opponent has to spend 4 mana on the Vendetta?
Oh, okay, yes. I should qualify. In the face of a non-zero mana Vendetta, it does serious work.
As you said yesterday, no one has ever spent 4 mana on a Vendetta and won the game.
I stand by that statement.
Are you going to stand by it this game?
Is that what Seiko's going to do this turn?
I think so.
I wonder.
Then I stand by it.
No, he might not.
Because I'm looking at, like, stepping the lackey, using Eviscerate instead.
Oh, geez, you're right.
Sorry, stepping the Miscreant. I mean, that seems significantly more powerful. Seiko going even further. That's just a 4-7. Okay.
Oh.
That is a large gentleman.
It doesn't look very gentle to me.
Choose soon.
That is a large, violent man.
It's huge.
hunterace, quite rightly, looking pretty upset with the outcome, but he does have the shield slam to take care of it. If he wants to go down that route,
Yeah,
but that does force him off the Wrench Caliber, which is, as you mentioned, such a huge card to get rocking and rolling.
You also just have to use a shield slam on what was an evil miscreant.
Yes.
Like, you weren't under pressure, and now you are.
Yeah. I don't think you're under pressure just yet. Also, did I just meow accidentally?
I don't know.
I feel like that's what happened.
I heard you kind of go like, meow. It's like a well and a meow.
Yeah, it did sound a lot like the noise my cat makes.
I wonder. Job's done.
Yeah, it's dead. You healed me too, idiot.
To no good.
Yeah, all right.
Considering the shadow step on the miscreant, I think he's specifically taking into account Spirit of the Shark with a hand like this, where your hand is getting so good with Spirit of the Shark that you actually might need to play towards that.
Many options.
Like, if you drew an Edwin Van Cleef here, are you launching the Edwin Van Cleef? Probably. You saw a shield slam, but maybe not because Brawl's there. There's
Two copies of Brawl in hunterace's deck as well.
And I think
huge difference.
I think that's really what that turn is boiling down to a bit. Is like, A, you just want to get the miscreant back anyway. And then B is, if you draw Spirit of the Shark, your hand starts becoming enormous.
Yep.
But there's a pretty long way to go, I think.
I wonder.
Not that I like seeing him make a face like that, but it just tells you what's happening in his head right now. There are so many variables he considers.
What now?
I do love watching him play. It's so strange because when you talk to him in real life, he's so happy, so enthusiastic, so high energy all the time. And yet when you watch him play Hearthstone, he's just so like anguished and invested, and it just feels like everything is a struggle for him all the time. It's because honestly, he's thinking about the game on such an intense level that it would cause anyone to feel some level of mental anguish. But it's just such a weird thing that this happy-go-lucky, cheerful, enthusiastic, insatiable kind of guy chooses to do something for a living that makes him make faces like that.
Why did I say Edwin? It's like Voldemort. You don't just say his name.
Well, Voldemort doesn't appear when you say his name.
It's
That's
not the point.
Not how that works.
I know that, but it's just, you don't say his name. It's just, you don't do it.
Okay.
You can often cut the scenes out of it,
I feel like Beetlejuice a bit a better way to go with it.
Edwin Van Cleef, Edwin Van Cleef, Edwin Van Cleef. Brawl, brawl, brawl. That one's much easier. Looking to avoid one particular disaster.
Yep.
Looking to avoid one particular disaster. Whoa.
Wasn't even close. I don't know what you were worried about.
I was worried about the Edwin winning.
Yeah. Wasn't even close. Second to last one out.
Yeah, the penultimate one. Wow, what an unexciting wrestler that would have been. The penultimate warrior. He just always loses every match he's in.
That's just the Ultimate Warrior's tag team partner, but he starts the match and then he gives the hot tag to the Ultimate Warrior who comes in. And cleans
Oh,
up.
see, you found the twist.
Yeah.
God, you have such a better wrestling mind than I do. You're so much better at those characters. Like, I just watched as a kid and I'm like, yeah! Sato's like digging into the stories and like what makes them who they are and what's their inspiration.
So many
It might be one of
options.
the least expected characteristics that I ever discovered about you.
That I like pro wrestling?
That you're really into.
Yeah. No, a lot of people say that.
Looking at Warpath, hunterace has pretty much trounced the assault on Seiko's side.
Yep, Warpath looking like the heat here.
What now?
hunterace will know full well that the contents of Seiko's hand is 3 lackeys, which in some ways is an encouragement to use this Warpath, because you know there's not a huge amount of gas in hand. But in some ways is also kind of dissuading you from using it, because you know Warpath is very effective against those 3 1-health lackeys that are going to come down into play. But I think all things considered, the fact that Seiko is sitting on a hand that very clearly does not have much gas in it is a very good reason to not just sit around and take 8 to 10 more damage from this board.
Yeah, that sounds like 8 to 10 less damage I can take. Yeah, good card. You know, that kind of thinking helped me figure out a lot of my plays with early minions when I was just falling behind on board.
Oh, hunterace stops and considers minion and swing, and I think he's right to do so, actually, now that I look at it. I was about to bring up that hunterace has been holding on to this wrench caliber for a very long time, looking for key moments to use it, looking for important moments to get bombs shuffled into the deck because of guaranteeing Blastmaster Boom, for example, coming down while bombs are still in the deck and haven't been drawn in the intermediary, and also just opportunities where he needs to hit a minion with the weapon instead of the face, which, yes, admirable, is a thing you can do.
I didn't say anything.
Okay.
I didn't say nothing.
I saw it in your eyes.
Well, against Rogue, I like killing their stuff.
Okay.
That way they don't kill me. I was going on the tangent about taking less damage from stuff. Like, when I'm behind on board, a lot of times I just look at my minion and I'm like, when is this ever going to get played if I don't play it now? And I'm like, it gains me 4 health and it damages the thing. Okay, I'll do that.
Right. Henge Clan Burglar, just about the best card in Seiko's deck in that position, when he's just basically low on gas and things to develop. But it's still quite a long way from being good enough in the situation that he's in.
I think the Heist Baron is probably the one.
Oh, good point. Yeah, I don't know why I forgot about that. You are, of course, correct.
I mean, that's how they get you. That's how they got the heist off. You forgot about them. Imagine like at Ocean's 11, they just followed them all around the whole time.
Just forgot about TOG.
Just looking around, they're like, God, just keep eyes on us the whole time. They're like, I'd call it off. That's the end of the movie. They go to dinner.
I wonder.
Now, taking more damage from this wrench caliber, this is interesting to me. Because I have a feeling that militia commander's actually quite annoying for Seiko in this spot, where you have pulled a lot of resources away and you've got him into this one line that he's taking, where it's just play the thing and hoping it, you take some damage and I eventually get something through. The militia commander starts chipping away. A pair of snip snaps with an armor up is a bit more mana efficient. And that gives them the turn 9 with Clockwork and Militia Commander, so it shores up that turn as well, and then goes straight to the Mega Ghost. I'm sorry, a Mega Assembly?
Yep.
I hope you like my invention.
Yeah, go digging. He's going to need to find that Togwaggle sooner rather than later. Blink Fox again. Above average in terms of just generating resources for him. Now Seiko choosing to give up the Shadow Step, which he would have loved to have paired with the Togwaggle even.
So much of this deck feels like it boils down to just drawing to your thing.
Yeah.
I feel like I've seen Shadow Step.
Suddenly an alternate plan is just somewhat coming together here. as Korkron Elite, Heroic Strike, and the three Kobold lackeys, sorry, that we picked up off the initial lackey generation, just added up to so much more damage.
You must become the warrior.
Defend the gates!
Somebody order a bomb.
Job's done.
Yeah, he just keeps neutralizing everything. He's taking a little bit of chip damage here, but just going in.
Is this an out at this point? Like a better out than drawing exactly Togwaggle next turn?
Okay, so what I'm thinking is
Because
you're pushing them to 12. You have the Heroic Strike to knock them to 8. They're going up to 9, 10 from their hero power. If you draw Evil Miscreant, you can get lackeys to win.
yes, that is an accurate statement. My question is it a better out than drawing exactly Togwaggle next turn and having a lackey in your hand?
That's a math question.
And also, he doesn't actually have to spend the mana on the lackeys this turn to still have that same out next turn, right? 2 mana on a Heroic Strike.
That's an excellent point.
Yeah.
This might have been like a, well, what else am I going to do sort of play, which honestly is fairly uncharacteristic of what I've seen from Seiko. He's tended to be very patient. However, he did express in his interview after the week he played hunterace the first time that he was very stressed out, that he was very nervous.
Yeah.
Mentioned that he thought he was facing his toughest week that he was going to face.
And he has, the way the league has panned out has kind of shown to prove his assessment correct, as hunterace has been the player that stepped up to challenge him at the top of the rankings.
I'm so
That might have closed this. I think it's going to take some insane combination of things to happen for Seiko to get out of this with a sap in hand and losing the board.
Yeah. So maybe in Seiko's mind, what he did, throwing away the Heroic Strike as well, set him up for better situations if he drew his one remaining Hench Clan Burglar, which I believe he still has. Therefore, he gets 2 spells off the Hench Clan Burglar and has maximum mana to be able to spend a couple of damage spells off that, potentially getting himself lethal.
Yeah, I think he was thinking through like just the battle cries in general.
Yeah. It's a tough spot for sure, but I think I potentially would have just fallen back on saying, okay, Togwaggle is the only card that gets me out of this next turn.
Yeah, I think he may be falling back and saying game 2 is where I'm going to have to go after this. That draw was
Also,
the worst.
Reasonable assessment, yeah.
Spirit of the Shark, 4 mana, gain some health and deal a nominal amount of damage. Not this time.
Imagine if that just was the card text of a card. Gain some health and deal a nominal amount of damage.
What does that
what,
mean?
what?
This would be a good time for a master plan.
I can see them printing a card that says that. That's my favorite thing. Is you'd be like, what does that mean? It's like the first time you read Desera and you're like, draw a dream card. What is a dream? Is it? Do I draw the dream card for my deck? Does it mean the best one? How does it know that? Then you find out it's just green things.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool. Trying to get it into attack mode. It takes a bit for it to work, but it's possible. I have never seen a Steel Rager hit face, and I don't think I ever will.
Whoa. Did Seiko even live this turn? Backstab, dagger, 3, 6, 9, 10, 11 remaining on the board, and he goes to 14. Yeah. He's alive.
I wonder.
Sweet. Huntrace goes down to 10, which means he's at 9 with the dagger, which means Hench Clan Burglar draw into what? Does anything deal 9 damage for 6 mana?
9 for 6?
Yeah.
9? You want to deal 9 damage?
For like for example, Avenging Wrath is not far off. Is there some random effect that is like a fraction of a percentage out to even get him out of that position?
Hench Clan Burglar. I'm trying to think of multi-card random generation after that.
Mm-hmm.
Hench Clan Oh, he doesn't have Sea Giants in the deck.
Nope.
Dang it! I landed on Holy Wrath. It's always some Paladin card that does whatever weird thing you need it to do.
Despair, destruction.
All right, one draw for Seiko to show us what miracles his deck is capable of. No one has ever spent 4 mana on a Vendetta and won the game, and that is not changing.
Aegis wasn't going to spend 4 mana on it.
Nope. Can't make me.
Dang it! I really wanted that to be the game.
Well, he didn't, did he? He did something completely different earlier.
I know,
I was kind of
that's-
joking about the second one that he drew.
And he didn't even play it.
No.
Now you know why I'm upset about that.
Yep. Well, big win for hunterace, regardless, to go 1-up in that series, because now Seiko is bringing some heat. And I don't know how well this is going to work out for him, because it's a very, very unique strategy. If I am reading it correctly, which I presume I am, that this is his idea of anti-warrior, to include mountain giants in his deck.
Yeah, I recall where the who I first saw do this, which was A83750.
3650.
Yeah, A83650. I don't know why I always get it wrong.
A numbers.
Yeah, A numbers. And he brought it to the Master in Vegas. And I believe, I want to say he credited Zalay and Ike. I don't quote me on that, but
Okay.
you know, hopefully there's some sort of clarity in chat, like someone's watching that knows where it came from actually.
Sure.
But I believe the idea was he credited someone else with the idea and brought it to the Master in Vegas, and then I think that or was it Twilight Drakes maybe, and that Mountain Giant was better? I think it was Twilight Drakes and that Mountain Giant was better. But that's where it was. It basically was born at the Masters Tour event, is where its like initial offering came into place, and then I've never seen it work because I've never seen it. But it is interesting in theory, though, so I'm curious how it goes in this one. We're going to a quick break while I gather my thoughts after that mess of words that I just said. Somehow, that's where I landed on. So stay tuned. Seiko versus hunterace, our 6th match of the day, is coming up after this.
My real name is Ling Nguyen and my gamer tag is Seiko. My username actually has no meaning. When I start playing, I try to find a name and that was available. My favorite esports memory in Hearthstone is probably winning the Nationals, because that's the first tournament I won. And I hope I can win some more this year. I don't think my play is that unique, because I feel like there's almost only one play every time. I actually have no hobbies anymore, because Hearthstone just took too much time that I just stopped any other hobbies. I was about to finish my bachelor, but then I started Hearthstone, and now I'm back and trying to finish it. I think it will be really hard to balance study and Grandmasters. Maybe I just skip the exams again. Hearthstone is for sure a higher priority right now. My personal goal this year will be to get to the Grandmasters finals and maybe to win it.
My name is Casper. My alias is hunterace. My username actually goes way, way back. I didn't actually come up with it myself. My father is like somewhat of a gamer and he had like his own gaming stuff. But what I did was I just stole one of his tags and used it for myself.
So hunterace is really your dad?
Well, not anymore. Right now I reached like my ultimate goal for this year. We happened to win the World Championship and that was like the biggest thing, so I'm like still extremely happy about that. I think that the Grandmaster program provides an exciting opportunity to be able to play like high competition Hearthstone every week. Only competing against the EU players to start with is going to be a very difficult job, and it's going to be super hard to be like one of the standout performers and then qualify to the global finals. I would have to stay at my best to be able to qualify.
It's Hearthstone Grandmasters for the European region. We're in our final match of the final day this week, week number 6. And that's Admirable, and joining me is Sato. We're amidst the series between Seiko and hunterace, and hunterace up a game in this one. Pretty solid performance in number 1. Just took his time, looked anguished over all of his decisions, but at the end of the day, they all beat him up.
Yeah. Tale as old as time, song as old as rhyme. Sometimes Rogue just loses to itself. It doesn't really matter like what build of the deck it is. The deck has got further and further away from the old days of Miracle Rogue, where there was so many 0 mana cards, and sometimes you had Sinister Strikes and Cold Bloods and other stuff in there that were dead draws as well. But it can still happen. Rogue still plays 0 mana cards because they're incredibly powerful, and sometimes you just get stuck with no gas in your hand, just desperately looking for something to do. And the best Rogue players always go fishing for just really, really weird outs in that scenario, where the dream sequence of draws will dig them out of it. And that's what we saw Seiko trying to set up for the last couple of turns, but as is most often the case, did not pan out for him.
Indeed. And now we're moving over to some different decks here, where I'm looking at Seiko, bringing in a Novice Engineer, a Snip Snap, a Harrison Jones, and 2 Mountain Giants. The cards that come out: 2 Eviscerates, a Life Drinker, and 2 Waggle Picks. Cards that aren't necessarily effective in the matchup. It is worth noting that for hunterace's side decks, there's not weapon destruction, and in his main deck, there's actually no weapon destruction either. So in order for Seiko to go to this game plan, he has to completely abandon the weapons altogether, despite the fact that there's no weapon destruction he's up against, which tells me this Mountain Giant plan better be pretty darn good.
Huh. Yeah, you're kind of right.
I think it is, though. I mean, if you're going to put in Mountain Giant and take out Wagglepix, I mean, Wagglepix's not super effective versus Warrior. You know, I will concede that.
It definitely is a card that's capable of giving you a game plan, though. Like, if you can reliably bank on the 16 from Wagglepick Leroy, that at least like gives you a clear route to victory, right? It really crystallizes your decision making when you know your opponent is incapable of shutting down that game plan.
Yeah. Something that I actually look at is Seiko's main deck and the exclusion of Snip Snap from the main.
Yep.
Like, you compare it over to Kalento's, for instance. Like, they're bringing pretty similar lists, but Kalento's side was very different with the Coppertails and the Wargear Cairn Mojo Master. He took out none of the Wagglepicks in the matchup. And he had the Snip Snap in the main.
Yeah, I was talking about this dynamic on day one, right? Like during one of the player interviews, just talking about how, well, if the rogues end up siding away their weapons anyway, do the warriors need to play weapon destruction? And here we are, finally, with hunterace, who just doesn't have it. If he wants to play weapon destruction, he'd have to switch to his anti-warrior strategy, which would also sub in a bunch of incredibly greedy cards.
Let them have their weapons and attack with it too.
Yeah. And even then, only for one game out of the series, because then they're likely going to switch away. Very weird dynamic, kind of thing that does just kind of pop up weird spots in Specialist.
I do find it quite funny that we get it from our perspective. We get to see all the decisions the players make. It's kind of easy to find the afterthoughts of that and then explain them. hunterace just did that.
Mm-hmm.
How? Like, how do you just come up, like, you're just playing and you're like, hey, wait a second.
Yeah, it is weird to me because even outside of destroying a weapon, I think the combination of Weapons Project and Harrison Jones is often just a game-winning play in itself if you can play those two cards together in Warrior.
Yeah.
So to just decide out of hand, that, like, no, I don't want those cards. I don't need them. Screw them. Better off without them.
I've personally kind of found Harrison Jones a little bit clunky, but my gosh, against Rogue it's just so good.
Yeah.
So easy to just draw two cards with if you just really want to. I think by virtue of the side deck from Seiko that this matchup is taken a little bit slower normally. That he has this plan.
I would imagine so, yeah. He can't really be,
So
with the way his
many
deck is built, he can't really just be throwing cards out onto the board and getting maximum tempo if, you know, he's then going to draw an 8 or 9 mana Mountain Giant on one of his turns because his hand size is so low.
Something that I remembered talking to hunterace about was when the Water Rogue started to step in and be a thing. I was like, what are the Sea Giants here for? He's like, that's a big thing. And I just started asking him matchups. And against Warrior, he's like, oh, it's just a really big thing.
Mm-hmm.
Mountain Giant's kind of like that in this matchup. Like, you can still, you know, play your stuff and be a little bit aggressive. That's a good reason to put Mountain Giant in.
Mountain Giants can stay in the deck. Leave them in there. They're fine. They're fine. They're fine where they are right now.
And honestly, if hunterace isn't able to establish that aggressive footing, just big stuff is good.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of times it'll stay around for a turn, it'll just attack.
Job's done.
And then they blow it up and you look down and you go, wow, I've played a lot of big things and they've all just attacked once. That damage adds up quick. That's not what you want to see happen if you're hunterace. I was initially looking at Spirit of the Shark, but your hand is quite full.
Yeah, it'll be quite difficult to get a full Miscreant turn off next turn.
So I'm looking at then Dagger, Evil Cable Rat into Spirit of the Shark. Use the Lackey to threaten the Togwaggle, or perhaps even hold the Lackey.
Sure.
This is so common for Seiko too. He Shadow Steps Novice Engineers. I've never seen anyone do it as much as he does.
I picked up this habit from someone at some point. I can't remember who it was. It might have been from watching Dog stream when he was playing Rogue. He tended to be playing like greedier versions of Rogue just because, you know, he's a streamer and if he wants to play Rogue, he has to have some kind of twist on his deck so that his chat doesn't rebel against him. So he was playing like maybe Togwaggle's Scheme and stuff like that. And I've noticed that trend as well. Like some very, very experienced players do Shadow Step Novice Engineer a lot. And I started trying it out, and it was showing very promising results.
I have just, that's such a strange option. It's so hard for me to just Shadow Step it. And the most exceptional rogue players I see, they do this a lot. Also got the Dynamatic out of the hand now before you play the Shark. So the Shark is you know, pretty safe to do on this turn. And then you get to roll into Coin with Togwaggle and the Lackey. I'm just curious when that combination of things is going to happen. Like, when does he set up the Spirit of the Shark for the Togwaggle? Because that, to me, is a play you want to make going into Hunterace's 7-mana turn.
That's a very good point.
However, perhaps you want the Togwaggle down going.
Yeah, I mean, getting a 5/5 down into that turn is pretty solid as well, right?
And I think something to think about here for Hunterace is that he wants to deny a Togwaggle just coming down very naturally, so he's likely to fight back against these lackeys to try to make something happen.
You can see as well where the idea of Mountain Giant at least comes from, right? Like, Seiko has been playing cards every turn. He's had stuff on the board, and still his hand just keeps getting fuller and fuller and fuller.
That's a common thing I have found with this deck as well. My hand just seems to always be full.
Hunterace has a very unpleasant prospect in front of him right now.
What now?
And that is the prospect of High Baron Togwaggle coming down to follow all of this up, but he does not want to be shipping a 3-1 Wrench Caliber charge into this 1-1.
Doesn't want to ship the Ziliax in there.
Nope.
Perhaps if you magnetize it, it feels a little bit better.
Why does that feel better?
It's on a 4/5 instead of a 3/2.
You're just sending more damage into a 1-1. That doesn't make me happy.
Well, it puts a big thing in play.
Okay.
I think, honestly, he's just not going to be able to avoid it effectively. And so you just give it up to him, man.
Yeah,
That's hand motion right there.
Yeah, that's exactly what that means. Oh, perhaps he was reacting to the bomb instead.
Oh, yeah. That's likely. It shows up on his screen a little bit earlier.
Yep.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, right on time.
There's a card that says that. I don't remember which one it was. It's right on time.
Yeah. Something that was in Mech Mage, I'm sure. Mechanical Mage. Those were the days. It's a pretty good turn to make some kind of alpha play if you're Seiko, because we talked about it previously, how disrupting your opponent's big turn 7s are very important. Because Seiko has actually been drawing these bombs immediately as they've been put into his deck, the Blastmaster Boom is actually not that scary for him, but still denying your opponent's ability to play Dr. Boom Mad Genius without taking enormous amounts of damage is very nice.
I'm not convinced I smell a Brawl turn.
Nope.
I don't think it's strong enough.
I like the snap play there from Hunterace as well. I think if he sits and deliberates about it for a longer time, that can give a read signal over to your opponent that you were kind of debating between some kind of removal play and the boom. That feels more like a, well, this is the only option I've got. Let's just jam it.
I've got a bunch of minions in hand. I'm about to rush them into your stuff.
Yeah.
And so how does Seiko perhaps interpret that? He's got a bunch of minions in his hand. It's going to rush to my stuff. I need to play a bunch more minions.
I wonder.
Well, well, well.
Shark is going in too.
Yep. This has worked out pretty well for Hunterace. Goes prep instead of the Myras there.
I mean,
now
it worked out pretty well. I think is subjective, at least. It's like, this is still a lot of cash in that he's getting with the Shark.
He just turns down the Myras again.
Yeah, I think Myra's is kind of bad in the matchup, honestly. Like,
really.
What do you empty your deck for? He's got Leroy already.
I
Just
hope
at that
you
point,
like
you
my invention.
want to take some fatigue damage and draw 3 cards. I mean, at this rate, anyway, he'd be drawing like 3 cards.
Yeah, that's true.
I think the biggest point of that turn for hunterace was that he got to throw a shark into this brawl. Lucrative contract was found for Seiko, which is 2 coins to hand after you play it.
Counterpoint. What if he doesn't brawl this turn?
You know,
This would
I
be
was
a good
just
time
thinking it.
for a master plan.
Snip Snap and Microbots do a pretty good job of taking apart that board anyway.
I think you just really want that shark going. Like, I think the shark is pretty massively threatening right
All right.
now. If Seiko wasn't generating so many resources, I think there's a lot more merit. It's just the fact that he's getting so many cards.
Yeah.
You need a reset.
Yeah. I think you can make an argument to like look at that the other way as well. It's like, well, my opponent already has 10 cards in their hand. Like, how much worse is a shark going to make my life?
That's how much worse it would have made it.
Preps the wand.
You just saw a brawl. Players very rarely play around the second copy of it. And there's 2 geese.
Oh, the crown, sorry. Did I say wand?
Yeah.
I'm dumb.
412, a very annoying health total on hunterace's side. He's got a mountain to climb to win this game.
He does.
It's like, what changed in this game? Like, Seiko just had so many cards the whole time.
Yeah. Yeah. He drew 1 Mountain Giant, which kind of represented all the pressure that hunterace needed to be tempted into ripping the brawl. A brawl that I'm still not 100% sure about, by the way.
I'm not, like, sold on it. It's tough for it to be bad in that spot, though.
Well, the reason you can perhaps... Like, that was a good brawl in terms of what he killed with the brawl. The problem is what happens when you use your brawl and then your opponent just has so many resources left in hand to just keep going.
Foregoing the... Oh, goodness. I really hate when I pass up a delivery drone.
Same.
He's just under so much pressure. I get it. I don't know. Like, he's way behind on development, so he needs to spend mana to catch back up. And I think that's really the spot that hunterace looks towards, is he goes, if I delivery drone, yeah, I have extra value, but am I going to have time to use it? I don't think he would.
I think it was Purple who I was watching at the time, who was streaming, who said, I would rather concede the game than miss a delivery drone.
So
That's how it, I feel that way. Like, it's so weird. I'm like, it's just 1 mech. Like,
there is a box, and I am going to open it. I don't care if I'm dying.
I don't know why I feel that way.
I wonder. Choose soon.
And I can promise you, if you're in hunterace's position, that looks very bad news for you.
Yeah.
This guy's toast.
Wow, he just might not be able to catch up without the right draw. You don't have to be as terrified of damage as 2 eviscerates were taken out of the deck, and so all the damage is limited to minion damage in terms of spells.
Right. But they are just 412s, and those things
Yep.
hit pretty hard.
Okay,
Remember that
then.
Karen talk that we were having the other day? Where I'm like, just keep hitting him in the face with it.
Yeah.
Karen's got a lot of health.
Yeah.
Just keep hitting him in the face. There's not really much they can do about it.
This would be a good time for a master plan.
Yep.
Yeah, Warpath here not really achieving too much. Even the 3-path that's available, yeah, great. It takes 6 damage off the board, but it's not progressing him towards any kind of game plan. Yeah, it just feels like Snip Snap all over again. Does he even have time to get all these animations through, though?
You do. Just...
He's just taking care of the 3 trees. Yeah, okay, fine. Doesn't have to wait for the Death Rattles and Microbots to resolve.
8 more, like... Make it stop!
Yeah.
That's what I feel. My core of cores. This does not feel like the intended use of these cards.
Despair, destruction.
Hunterace just starting to look flustered again. Seiko just shipping 8 more to the face, keeping up lethal. Yeah, Dynamatic starts to look a little less effective when there is 33 health worth of opposing minions.
How do you survive?
Well, it starts with this shield block. Second copy of Brawl still available in the deck.
Okay, then.
Unity, precision,
It's not backstabbable.
It is contractable, though. That's a weird word.
It is, in a weird sense, contractable.
Yeah.
It's a lucrative contract, too. Novice Engineer has worked its whole life to turn an Arcane Intellect.
Yep. That was the Novice Engineer that was shadow stepped all the way back at the opening of this game that we talked about.
This guy's
And it's just been sat there, waiting for its best friend Spirit at the Shark.
Needs Brawl. Not Brawl.
Yeah, weirdly, he's still not dying from his own perspective, though. He'll have a pretty good idea of what that far left card is at this point, based on how long it's been there.
This would be a good time for a master
I'm
plan.
never not taking Crown against Warrior again. Like, this is just... Like, 4-12s just kill them, apparently. Like, my gosh.
Enjoy your Myra Rot Springs.
I will.
Yeah.
Sinto included that at the Masters Tour. Sinto Lol did.
I saw that, actually, yeah.
And he qualified for the Masters Tour in Seoul using that same deck list.
Can he... Is that like a 3-path Militia Commander play here? Or a 2-path Microbots Militia Commander play? We were too busy memeing for me to work that out before Casper did.
4 damage from... you're missing the damage to kill Amalagos.
Well, he could have done Microbots there instead of the 3rd Warpath, and then use Militia Commander.
Leave the Shark.
Ah, yeah. Alright, good point.
I think that's the thought anyway.
Yep, no, you're right.
And that's 15 exact, which means game number 3.
Hello?
He's just
Okay.
counting it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Also, there's a lot of
sure.
animations on the other side too. Like,
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, that is absolutely what it was. Seiko squares it up. A wacky-looking version of an anti-warrior deck for specialists with mountain giants packed in there, but the cards that were brought into the deck did have a big effect. The Mountain Giant, basically just that and Spirit of the Shark were the only two significant threats on a board that hunterace felt that he had to brawl. Novice Engineer, which was brought in a second copy as well. He plays one Novice Engineer in his main deck, brings in a second for the Warrior version. That actually had a big payoff as well for him.
Yeah, that's so just, it looks really weird to me is all, but it makes sense. You need to dig to specific cards. Like you want to find Togwaggle.
Yep.
You need to find Sharks a lot of times to couple with all these effects. You know, it's one of the ones you're looking for early on. And if you happen to have Shark, Novice, and Jam, I mean, we've seen how willing he is to just Shadow Step it.
And you have two Mountain Giants in your deck, which makes Novice Engineer a pretty good card.
Just weird.
Yeah. I definitely want to go back and look at that brawl turn from hunterace, or if he watches this and you go back, Casper, and look at that brawl turn, tweet me. Let me know what you think. I'm curious.
I had brawled. I'm brawling.
Okay.
I could see again, I can see the hands I'm kind of brawling. You just can't just take, I guess he didn't have to take 8. He wouldn't be able to snip snap.
He just snip snaps into it.
Ah, well, that's a good argument. So I guess it's just like, how impactful is the Shark if it goes unchecked for a turn? And I think it's like really impactful.
Well, I think your opponent has 10 cards in hand, so it's very hard for them to have a significant turn that like generates a huge amount of value back into their hand because they already have 10 cards in hand. So the one thing they can use that Shark for is significant amounts of damage with Life Drinkers and Kobold Lackeys and SI7 agents or whatever it is. But you're sat on Mechs plus Ziliax in hand, which means you have the ability to recover from that damage if it comes through.
Yeah, I think his nod is almost exactly Togwaggle. Where it's like, if he gets 2 crowns. I mean, 1 crown just beat him down. Like, how is he going to get 2 of them?
That's fair. Well, he'd still have a brawl.
He still have a crown.
Yeah.
So I think the better hope is just they don't have Togwaggle.
Okay. Then we haven't really got anywhere with this debate, have we?
No. But except in the Save the Brawl instance, you took a little bit more chip damage and you used a Snip Snap.
Yeah.
That's a tough call.
It's tough.
It's really
that's what I'm saying. I'm sure like if Casper watches the VOD and goes back and looks at that turn, he will have a much more definitive answer on it than we do.
Yeah,
and
if he watches the VOD.
And he can let me know.
Mountain Giant opening hand on coin, Blink Foxhenge Clan Burglar. This is a lot of threats with a big thing to follow it up. This is pretty close to one of your ideal situations.
Yeah.
Let the pain speak to me.
Job done.
hunterace has some of these cool, annoying cards versus Rogue, though. I always feel like when I play Acolyte of Pain, it just like kind of sucks cards out of my opponent's hand and gives them to me.
That is one of the worst possible pulls in the matchup versus Warrior. I remember this happening to Zalay. It might have been in some of his testing for Vegas against Purple or someone of the like, and he got this card and was actually in hysterics about how bad it was. He played it, of course he did. He had mana at some point to play it. He's Zalay, therefore he played the card, and was just honestly laughing to himself about how terrible it was.
Interesting that hunterace goes for the Town Crier afterwards. So he's interested in drawing Rush minions then. Or was he more interested in perhaps playing an Eternium Rover if he had drawn that? That's weird.
Wait, start again?
So he played Shield Block and then played Town Crier. Ah, Shield Slam.
Shield Slam.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm dumb.
There's just a Mountain Giant on the wall. It's turn 4.
It's the way that you just like, there was like no thought in killing the Acolyte. I kind of like this. I feel like you are telling him you have Vendetta, which tells me that you are going to play Vendetta this turn. And you are just thinking about what to hit.
That guy, apparently.
Takes away some Ziliax stuff.
Yep.
Is that all it cuts into?
Snip snap stuff.
It takes
very good.
Takes away Militia Commander being a direct hit on the Mountain Giant to kill it as well.
Yeah, just killing one of the minions does, yeah.
What now?
This has actually turned out to be important to hit the Eternium Rover because if hunterace had attached the Ziliax to the Eternium Rover, you don't have a way to actually respond and kill it immediately without using the Mountain Giant on it.
It's true. You have a sap, but it doesn't tie in particularly well with your next turn unless you want to use coin alongside a 4-drop.
Well, that's got to be a good sign for Seiko. First trade into Blinkbox.
Yeah, and this is an almost identical play to something we saw in the previous series with Silvername, where he just has to set up to kill the Giant over 2. Just deal some damage to it with a Dynamatic, and then that sets hunterace up to be able to run a Militia Commander into it on the following turn.
Yeah, and Silvername, I believe, he won that game. But what ended up happening was all the resources were expended on Kalento's side to create that Edwin Van Cleef. Resources were generated on Seiko's side to play this Mountain Giant.
Yeah.
Unity. Precision.
And guess what? This is now the exact opposite scenario to what we saw last time, where Kalento, in response, made a play that played around the second Dynamatic, but did not play around Militia Commander. Seiko makes a play here that plays around the Militia Commander, and that's exactly what hunterace has. If it was second Dynamatic, that Giant was toast.
Easier to play around when you saw Town Crier.
For sure. For sure. Wow. hunterace feel like he's there already. I think there was just a quick lean to the shield block there for a second, as if to say, well, it's shield slam or toast this turn.
Mountain Giant is dealing 16 damage.
Yep.
And still requires attention.
Crystal Power.
Just heal it up. Oh my gosh, that's actually scary.
Crystal Power heal the Giant is better than killing the 2/2, right? I believe.
For all intents and purposes, pretty much, you know, Brawl, I think, is like the
Yeah.
Thing,
like, it plays around more total things to heal the minion, I guess is what I'm saying with that statement.
Wow.
That's super interesting.
It's just the amount of importance I've seen with, like, drawing cards from the deck.
That's fair.
Like, I'm guessing that's what he's weighing it against.
Right.
Choose soon.
Yeah, I don't think he's looking at Reform Scheme anytime soon.
Well, nobody is.
Yep. Nailed it. And that's a weird spot to be in and be able to identify, right? Like, a card that is most commonly used to deal 2 damage is presented to you, and there's a minion with 2 health on the board that you can fire it at. To recognize that healing was a stronger option in that spot is not the easiest thing to find.
He's just still facing down a Mountain Giant. Like, it's not supposed to be here anymore.
Yes, he is.
Warrior's supposed to be pretty decent at killing these things.
Well observed, Admirable.
I feel for him. Like, if you want to kill this, it's Warpath for 1, run in both your militia commanders. You have a 4/2 in play. You have to keep fighting on board. Like, you have to create tension and hope that's going to work. Ziliax is one of the best ways to do that.
Yeah.
In the game. And now Leroy Shadow Step available. I'm curious if it's Overlord's Whip time.
There is a slight temptation for Overlord's Whip to come into play.
I want Overlord's Whip.
It's looking pretty good.
You said this is supposed to be a bad card. It's looking great right now.
It's real bad, Nathan.
It's looking real good, Sottle.
Okay.
Oh, 8 more.
So now we're just back in worlds where we can one path, we can throw the 2 militia commanders in, and we can armor up.
It's still 24 damage.
Yeah.
What now?
Mountain Giants have looked real good in this one series sample size.
I have never felt more drawn to a single card. Like, I didn't know cards could deal this much damage just by themselves.
Can I introduce you to our Lord and Savior, Frothing Berserker?
I have tried. That card is horrible right now, but you know how many militia commanders and Dynomatics just eat it alive? And you're like, why did I put this in here? This was a bad idea.
Yeah. But oh, there was a time.
24 damage, and by the way, now we rip the brawl and hope this works.
All right. See, now we're in a situation where Seiko has to restabilize because he's not quite yet threatening lethal, and every lackey in his deck dies immediately because of the weapon that he has in play.
Can't override it.
He can.
He gets to keep attacking for 2 right now. I'm just curious, like, how much he needs to fight for board versus, you know, just start chipping away at face. Like,
I agree that going face here is probably the best strategy that he has. But it just... This, I'm telling you, this Overlord's Whip is not fun. Look how bad it is.
why does it hit your own stuff? I played this exactly one time. I built a Mechathune deck that wanted to play around Unseen Saboteur, and so I used it to damage the Voodoo Doll. That would eventually kill my own Mechathune.
What? Okay.
I really wanted a weapon. I wanted to damage my own Acolytes before they just died. It wasn't very good.
It certainly doesn't sound too promising.
It wasn't too bad, though. Like, I'll say that. It's good for not getting backstabbed.
Seiko now representing 12, 14, 16 damage from hand on any given turn. Hunterace must continue to gain health. Hunterace lean towards the augmented Elic that turn. Feeling like he's safe at 18 and he'd rather have the board development to be able to fight back against anything else that comes down. Yeah, that's where he's going.
Of course, that was before Togwaggle. I don't think you're going to feel very safe after this.
Nope. But this turn is the important one. That was the debate. Did Shield Block need to come down this turn and this turn exactly? And Huntrace decided no. It's so bad.
That's just a mistake, I think. And I think Seiko just realized.
Yup.
You got to override it first.
Yup.
You're just so excited. I mean, that hurts. Inner Rage is 2 more damage.
Oh, good. I can deal 2 damage to one of my own minions.
Well, I meant, like, when the Overlord's Whip is gone, you get to put that on a Leroy. It's just 2 damage for 0 mana.
All right, I get it now. This card is actually hilariously bad.
Choose soon.
And that, I'm not kidding. That turn may have cost Seiko.
It is a potentially huge punt from Seiko to have lost that lackey.
On 9 mana, we had attack for 2, dagger to 7, use 1 mana on a lackey, and then use the remaining 6 on the Togwaggle. That did not happen this turn.
Right.
That needed to happen this turn.
He does still have
He did keep the Overlord's Whip, though. So he was looking at specifically if Hunterace armors up, because he has the Inner Rage, he could kill him on the next turn. The shield block changes all that now.
Wait, how could he kill him on the next turn?
Leroy for 6. Use the Overlord's Whip attack for 2.
Yes, okay, yeah, you use the Inner Rage on the second Leroy.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Either way, you can get rid of the Overlord's Whip first. I digress. He had the extra 2 damage because of the Inner Rage, so he went for the lethal setup after he found the Inner Rage.
Mm-hmm.
And then that shield block is a kicker. Plot twist. Not the Warlock kind. Yeah, and I think that his reaction to what's happening is quite accurate. I'd be worried.
Hunter, like, I am very scared. Of course, we're staring at the contents of the hand, and it's just damage plus damage plus damage plus damage plus Togwaggle. But hunterace, again, foregoing armor for board development this turn. He does rip the shield block, but did not press the hero power button.
I wonder.
And you didn't get a 5/5 in play. It's yeah, right to go off damage for sure.
Yeah,
you got to move away from that.
Crown again. 6/6.
This is cleared by Warpath.
Yes, it is. Oh dear, Seiko.
Too soon.
If you ever shadow step one of your test gray mains, what does it end up playing for the cost of playing around Warpath?
I have not been writing down all the non-class.
Oh god, it
played.
replays an Overlord's Whip. No, forget about it. Forget about it. I'm out. Bad idea.
$27. By the way, a shield slam is picked up. By the way, there's an Omega Assembly to draw. By the way, there's a Spellbreaker for Edwin.
By the way, both Dr. Booms are still to come.
By the way, you could have had the Togwaggle 2 turns ago.
By the way, Overlord's Whip sucks.
I'm not convinced that it actually changes the outcome of the game, but holy moly, did it change the outcome of the situation.
Yeah.
Like, hunterace's turn would have been much more difficult. I think in this specific instance of draws, it would have changed the game. But from the turn he misses it, you're still looking at possibilities afterwards. You know, we're looking at
So
having to
many
deviate towards
options.
Omega Assembly at that point. I think very likely.
Right.
You don't have the Hench Clan burglar information of the Inner Rage, so you are, in theory, missing some damage there, but...
Ooh, this is cute. Seiko going double stack on the Snip Snaps and then using the Inner Rage as well as the coin to get Edwin Van Cleef down, which now gives him at least 2 targets that want to get Spellbreaker here. Problem is, with hunterace, with the armor gain that he's had recently, and when 2 of the 3 cards in his hand are Spellbreaker and Shield Slam, this is about as good as it gets for our current world champion.
And I think with that nod that he just had, he knows he's turned the corner.
Yeah, that was the, we got there nod.
And Seiko's reaction to the Omega Assembly.
What now?
Now just debating. I imagine this Snip Snap has to be getting Spellbreakered, right?
I think he's thinking really deep about this 2 armor versus the Clockwork Goblin.
I wonder.
Okay. See that as a debate. Definitely debated it myself on the last couple of turns. The hunterace has chosen development over armor. Like, weirdly, despite him choosing development over armor in a couple of spots, he's ended up with a ton of armor that he's now able to use to shield slam a massive minion, which seems to indicate his line of thinking was correct. Whoa. Whoa.
What?
Whoa. Nope.
Is he making a read of that's exactly Shadow Step in Seiko's hand that's next to something? And so if you silence the Snip Snap and you can't kill it, they're going to Shadow Step it back? Like, is that what he's thinking? Why would you not silence that?
It's a valid argument if your read is that strong.
I don't want to take 6s all. Like,
Right. That's kind of the counter, the counter argument, right? Is that like, well, Why take 6 in the process?
It makes some sense. Like, silence it when you're going to kill it. Because if they shadow step it and then make another a 6/9 afterwards, like, what are you actually going to do? And I think that not being able to secure a board and attack back onto it is going, wow, I can't take the 6 damage anymore.
Right.
I think that might have been specifically because Mountain Giant happened too.
Yeah. I mean, at least this way, if it gets stepped back, he's generated a pretty heavy amount of damage on the board himself. Dagger up.
Yeah, that was really quick.
Just that dagger up alone denies some options from Seiko this turn.
And that might have been the position that he took afterwards as he pressed that button and went,
So many
maybe I wasn't
options.
supposed to do that.
Both players just so deep in the tank, the anguish coming through on both players' faces as we get towards the end of this crucial game 3. And I don't think it's a coincidence that the players who kind of take themselves this seriously are finding themselves at the top of the division. Although it is a surprise to see some of the sloppy play that we have seen come out from these two.
Yeah, he knows that he gave up a little bit there. Oh, did he? No, because it would have been 4 snip snaps.
Yeah, he loses,
oh my gosh.
loses an entire
I
snip snap.
forgot about the coverage that you get on that too, where you could just oh my, that's a mega misstep. In my head I was just like, oh, 3 snip snaps, great.
No, the first
It's
one costs
4.
1.
Yeah, it's 4 snip snaps, and Blastmaster Boom gets drawn. I mean, it's a damage race now.
I'll tell you who's winning this damage race. His name is not Seiko. hunterace looking like he has created the board state that is going to send him joint top of this division.
So many options.
You got to say, Seiko potentially has no one else to blame but himself in this position.
So many options.
God, that Blastmaster draw was mega important too.
Yeah, I mean, there are both of them in his last 10 cards. At some point, you're entitled to draw them.
Just not a way out. I think so much snowballed away on that Overlord's whip. Blunder with the lackey.
With the lackey and the Togwaggle, yeah. Yeah, the first Overlord's whip turn where he got a couple of 4 health minions reduced down to 3 didn't end up having a big impact.
He took 4 to face. He's just dead.
Just dead on board. hunterace is going to join Seiko on an 8-4 record as Seiko falls to the 8-4 record. The world champion, for a week at least, is sitting atop the throne yet again.
Took him 12 matches to get there. He started out with a losing record in Grandmasters, but week after week, he started to come out on top of those matches instead. And then finally, week 12, we have 1 more week to go after this. He's caught up now. Can he take the lead next week and secure it?
It would be a hell of a story if it happened, but honestly, he had windows open for him in that series. It's got to be said. Whether it would have eventually, flipped the result on its head, it definitely was advantages that Seiko let go, percentages for sure that he dropped in that last matchup.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's tough to say if they come to fruition or not.
Yeah.
However, they never come to fruition if you don't take them.
Yep.
So it's all right. We're going to go to standings right now. Apparently, hunterace has gotten up from his place.
He ran away from us. What?
Well,
Come on.
Look, you got to take a breather after that one.
Yeah, fair enough.
That was a tough set. Seiko now stands at 8-4 after facing hunterace. This rematch, hunterace able to answer back as well. The last time these two faced, Seiko came out on top. And this week, hunterace able to best him in this one, tie up that record. And you take a look at these standings at the top here. My goodness. It's tightly packed.
It is. It is. And the hunterace victory is most likely what the chasing pack would have liked to have not seen. They would have liked to have seen Seiko pulling further away, because you don't have to concern yourself with first place if second and third are available. But first and second, both starting to separate out from you, that's where it becomes a lot more difficult for the chasing pack.
Indeed. And hunterace has joined us back again for an interview. hunterace, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you guys.
Congratulations on the win. This was a very important match for you here today. Talk to me about the Bomb Warrior bring this week, and just overall thoughts on it in terms of like tech choices. No weapon destruction is found in terms of 4 rogues anyway. How did you come to that decision?
I don't really think that the weapon destruction is that powerful versus the rogue deck. I feel like a lot of the time you want to do other stuff, and also if I want weapon destruction, I have to play it in my main deck, because I don't want to sideboard versus the rogue. I just play my main versus rogue, and running weapon destruction in the main deck is so expensive. I really don't like teching in general in the main deck. It just feels extremely expensive because I have to play it versus any deck in game 1. It's just very expensive to run a weapon removal if I'm going to pair up against hunter or mages, for example.
So the turn towards the end there of that last game, where you chose not to Spellbreaker the Snip Snap for 1 turn and then Spellbreaker on the second turn.
So I thought that his play was so weird, right? Like, he could have just went Snip Snap Snip. I felt that it's so all in. So I thought that he didn't have any more type of board development, and he wanted to like bait me to Spellbreaker one of them, so he can just shadow step it back and then go again, right? And then I'm behind because I don't have a Spellbreaker. So the idea was that I kill the Edwin and I just play minions to just try to kind of stay ahead, and then maybe Spellbreaker next turn so he can't use a Shadow Step, because I had like a very hard read on Shadow Step there. I felt there was like no way he goes that in unless he has the Shadow Step, but yeah, I'm not sure. It was pretty close.
Well, that was kind of what we were talking about too. I actually thought it was quite clever to recognize the Shadow Step and try to actually deliver a lethal blow on the Snip Step afterwards.
Yeah.
It looked very confusing to me at first, and then I started thinking about it. I was like, wait a minute, he probably has a good read on this Shadow Step.
Yeah, it makes sense. Like, the sacrifices that you take 6 in the process, but sometimes that's a price that you have to pay. I want to ask as well, could you see from your side that some of what was going on Seiko's side was not particularly optimal in the situation? Like, particularly with the Overlord's Whip, he was destroying his own lackeys when he was trying to play Togwaggle and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, that I kind of realized that. Yeah, that didn't quite work out too well for him for sure in game 3 there. And I don't know, it's just a very interesting matchup in general, because they just generate so much random stuff, and at one point you just have no clue what's happening in their hand anymore, right? But you get like general ideas of what he has based on how he turns out, and like how he decides to shadow step his minions and stuff like that. I remember in I think it was game 2 it was, or I don't remember actually. It was one of the games where in one of the turns he decided to shadow step the miscreant, which gave me like a super clear read on his hand, which kind of helped me like not do plays that I would have done in other cases, because if he didn't shadow step the miscreant at all, I would have had to, for example, kill the lackey, because he would have threatened Togwaggle, for example. But when he shadow steps the miscreant, there's no way he has to Togwaggle, because he always shadow steps the lackey when he has Togwaggle, so it may be able to play way slower. So that was, for example, a thing that happened where you can like get a read. But yeah, it's pretty complicated, and it's also pretty clowny. I was also not sure about a couple of turns there. It was a lot of close turns. I tried to maneuver it as best as I could. And I'm very happy with this win now, because now I believe I'm first in the league because I have better tiebreaker than Seiko. So I hope I can get first place now, because that would be super good going into playoffs to get a head start on the others.
Yeah, well, it's been quite a whirlwind for you. You started out actually with not the best record after the first couple of weeks, and you've turned that all around and shown exactly what it takes to persevere, and eventually, like last year, win yourself a world championship. So I think well-deserved. Go on.
This Bomb Warrior is fired, dude. I'm 90 out of 90 now. Like, I brought the exact same list last week that I brought this week, and it's won every game.
Nice.
It's just winning streak. So maybe I'll bring it again next week.
The bait
my
and
opponent
switch.
will expect it at that point.
Yeah.
I hope for their sake they didn't hear that.
They'll try to counter me then, I guess. We'll see. We'll see.
Layers.
I don't know what read I'd have. I'd flip a coin at this point. hunterace, congratulations on your win, and I can't wait to see you play next week.
Thanks a lot.
And so that's it. That's 6 matches in the book.
Woo. Oh, damn, I forgot to ask him about the brawl. Now I'm annoyed. I'm going to have to tweet him in a second.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's what you're looking forward to anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's it for us. It's done.
It was a long old day, but there was some pretty seriously exciting matches. They all kind of went all over the place. hunterace used the word clowny there, and I would certainly echo that in a lot of the situations. Lots of created by madness, but lots of skillful decision-making as well, trying to find their way around those random interactions.
Indeed. It's been a pretty long day of Hearthstone. It's been a pretty tough day of Hearthstone, too, but I think a lot of the good play was absolutely rewarded today. And that puts hunterace now, again, on top of his division. So one more week of Grandmasters is going to be coming up after this one. But before we get over to that, we got to ship it over to Americas. So that's exactly where we're headed. More Grandmasters is coming up. But that does it for me and Sato. TJ and Frodan coming up.